I'm just amazed at the stories that God has given me to share, and that we get to experience the kingdom of heaven in such powerful ways. You know, a lot of these stories that God has given me to share are all tied together. This one's tied together with a story that's called One in a Million. What are the odds? That story began with God orchestrating, moving me from the home that I was selling over into the camper resort Lake Travis, and the manager there that grilled me for what seemed like forever, saying, why should we allow you to move into this one spot we have available on camper resort Lake Travis? Well, 6 months later, the Lord sent me to his deathbed, that same person, that manager, to grill him about why should God allow you into the kingdom of heaven. One day while I was living in an RV at Camper Resort Lake Travis, I went out to my car to grab something. And just then Mary Ellen walked by and she said, did you know that Chuck was sick? And that look in her eye was a look that I'd never seen before. And I told Mary Ellen, I said, no, I didn't know. And then she just said, oh, and she bowed her head and she kept walking. Well, that look in her face prompted me to, when I got into my RV, to just pray for Chuck. And I prayed, God, what was that all about? I didn't know if he just had a common cold or if it was something more severe. I prayed, Lord, do you want me to go down there and lay hands on him or do something else? And I didn't sense the Lord wanted me to do anything other than say a simple prayer for him. And so I did. Well, a couple of days later, I got a call from Angie Presley, who said, Chuck's in the hospital. Are you supposed to be here? Well, at that moment, I was with some other people watching the University of Texas football game, and I said a simple prayer and felt like I was supposed to just continue to watch the game and not do anything at that point in time. And so after praying silently, I got back to Angie and I said, no, Angie, I'm not at this point in time. I don't feel led to do anything. And so the next morning when I woke up, I felt led to pray again for Chuck, only this time the Lord said, I want you to go visit Chuck, but I want you to go visit him in the hospital when his wife, Mary Ellen, isn't there. And so I called Angie and I said, Angie, I've been praying this morning and the Lord did tell me that he does want me to come there to the hospital. And I said, what's going on? I said, how long have you been there? Has Mary Ellen, how often does she leave? The Lord told me he wanted me to come there, but he wanted me to come and visit Chuck when Mary Ellen wasn't around. And so that's when I learned from Angie that Mary Ellen hadn't left the hospital in a couple of days. But she had been talking about going back to Camper Resort to take a shower because she was worried about smelling. And so I said, well, Angie, text me and let me know exactly when Mary Ellen leaves. And that's when I'll come up there and I'll visit Chuck. And so I waited and nothing happened. Later that afternoon, I prayed again, Lord, what do you want me to do here? Do you really want me to wait until Mary Ellen leaves? And the Lord spoke to me and he said, I want you to go at exactly 3 p.m. And so I turned around and made sure that I got there at exactly 3 p.m. at the hospital there in Lakeway, which is near Lake Travis. And when I got there, Angie was still in the lobby. And I said, Angie, where's Mary Ellen? And Angie said, well, she just left 5 minutes ago to go back to Camper Resort to take a shower. And I said, oh, okay. God's timing is so perfect. I went into Chuck's room, and when I went in there, Chuck saw me, and his first words were, what are you doing here? Are you staying here as well? And I said, no, Chuck, the Lord sent me here to ask you about where you want to spend eternity. And I had a chance, at perfect opportunity, to share the gospel with Chuck. And I shared with him Romans chapter 6, verse 23, and we discussed in detail what that meant. And Chuck did embrace the gospel. And after I left his room, I went out in the lobby, and now not only was Angie there, but Mary Ellen was there with her son David. And I shared what had happened. And when I did, Mary Ellen broke down in tears. That's when I learned that for 2 years, the women that made up the Bible study there in Camper Resort Lake Travis. There was about 15 women that had been praying for Chuck to receive the gospel for 2 years. A few days later, I found out that Chuck passed away. And I went up there to visit with him and the people that were there in the hospital. And that's when I had the opportunity to stand over Chuck's lifeless body. What that moment the Lord reminded me about when I first met Chuck. I shared in another video that when the Lord led me to go to Camp Resort Lake Travis, that Chuck was the manager there and that he grilled me very hard. Why should I let you into heaven? Why should I let you into Camper Resort? The connection between the two. Well, during his eulogy, I had a chance to present the gospel again, only this time to the people that came to celebrate his life. And I presented the gospel, and one of the people that were there was very disturbed while I was sharing the gospel and doing the eulogy, because I was presenting the gospel, that caused a reaction in her since she was an atheist. It also caused a reaction in her boyfriend. And afterwards, he came up to me and he was very disturbed about a few of the things that I had shared. And I answered his questions as we walked to my RV, and it ended up being a divine appointment, because he ended up getting down on his hands and knees and asking Jesus Christ to come into his life and be his Lord and Savior. In Acts chapter 26, verse 16, this is Jesus speaking to one of his disciples. He says, I have appeared to you and appointed you as my servant to be my witness. Now go into the world and tell them what you have seen.